Colin here. We're at SEMA, and we want to talk a little bit about the excess power batteries that are in this truck. I have Remy here from Excess Power. We have currently a Group 65 AGM cell right here in this position, and we just went to the Super Bank Group 65 SB 6500 right here. And I've been talking to Excess Power for about 2 years now on this setup. They really sold me on it. They've given me so much information on this setup. I can't even retain it all. So I actually had to go over to the Excess Power booth and say, hey, Remy, I need you to fill in all these people and tell me why this is a good setup. And I figured the best person to do it here would be Remy from Excess Power. So let's go ahead. I'll flip it around. He's going to give you the lowdown on this current setup.
First things first, a lot of people think, what's the point of having two batteries on a diesel truck? Well, the first thing is going to be amperage, cranking amps, getting the truck started. That's obviously the number one thing that batteries do. A capacitor has thousands and thousands of amps that it can actually store in your actual truck. So a setup like this where you have an AGM battery and a capacitor means that you are going to save a ton of life on your AGM, and you're not lifting the heavy things in and out every couple of years, but you're also going to have the starting ability to pretty much start it at any point in time, at any voltage point. So like our personal truck, we've dropped down to 9 volts with our AGM and capacitor combo. Starts right up just fine with AGMs. You won't really be able to do that. The nitpicks, the capacitors are not only made in the USA, but they are probably about 12, 13 pounds versus a 55-pound battery. They store all of their current all at once, all the time. Going to a setup like this, you don't really have to change anything. We case them in the Group 65 size, Group 48, all the popular sizes. So it literally looks like a battery, but internally it is completely different. You're looking at the ability to like pull a winch, pull it in and out. It's going to basically stabilize your voltage if the truck is running, or without the truck running, instead of having those hard hits like if you pull a winch out or like if you crank the truck. Cool thing is, what I tell a lot of people to do is start the truck before, start the truck after, to sort of get an idea of like how the starter actually sounds, because it'll be a difference that you wouldn't think, but it's a big difference. Being a 500 series model, you have a 500 farad capacitor in the actual truck. They've been tested down to negative 30 degrees to be able to pull, well, they can pull a lot of amps, and I would see if you could try it. Basically, it's a big old try me on it.
And what about cold cranking amps? I mean, we get down to temperatures, is it going to actually spin the starter faster? And how about duty cycles? I mean, if I'm using all these lights and the winch and everything, what would a typical AGM setup do versus having the capacitor?
So a typical AGM setup, you're basically if you go outside of the operating range, and then you try to start it back up, as far as on the lower side, you try to start it back up, AGM batteries can build up sulfation, and they can actually start to deteriorate internally, which shortens your life. You have a whole bunch of issues. With AGM, let's say you put a load on it, you drain it, charge it back up, it's totally fine. Not only is a setup like this going to give you more power, but it's also going to save you from having to replace your battery so often. With a capacitor itself, you have about 1 million cycles on it, and a cycle is any time you put more than a 50 amp load to it. So with 1 million cycles, AGM usually has a lifespan of about 2,500 cycles. So being able to basically double the lifespan of a setup like this, a lot of people like. And that's sort of why we made them come to life.
Good to know. And what's the procedure of actually putting this into the truck? So, I mean, you're going to order the SB 6500, the Super Bank capacitor. How do you just throw it in here and charge it, or what do you do?
So in the box, you're going to have because it's a capacitor, there will be warnings not to just immediately hook it up because it isn't a battery. First thing that you'll do out of the box, you'll have a resistor that is in it with a little label on it. And I'll actually tell you what to do as far as getting it charged. So you can hook it to another 12 volt source. The negative will go to the negative of the capacitor, and in the positive, you'll actually take a resistor and go in between the positive and the positive of the capacitor. That's number one. That takes a little bit of time. The resistor does get hot, so it is something that is normal. It is resisting the amount of current to go between the two. Or if you have a 8 amp or lower charger, just charge it. Like hook your positive and negative to it from a charger, let it charge back up, let it sit on the charger for maybe 5-6 hours so that the capacitor can actually absorb the voltage and amperage, and then just hook it up. It's good to go. The big thing that we see a lot of people doing the charger route is that, yes, it'll charge on an 8 amp charger from dead to 14.4 volts in like 30 minutes. But the issue is that it has to actually absorb it, because if you just hook it, charge it up, all that capacitance is going to drain. It doesn't have a chance to actually absorb it. And letting it sit 5 or 6 hours and then hooking it up, no issues whatsoever.
Okay. And is this a safe technology? I mean, is this something that you're going to have? I mean, you've heard of like people talking about lithium and, oh, it's bad, it can run away. Mm-hmm. Is this perfectly safe?
So it's not lithium, it's not AGM, it's a capacitor. So the only way that you can damage it or damage your property is, let's say, for instance, you have a short somewhere and one of your electrical components doesn't catch it. And let's say you overcharge up to 19, 20 volts. Sure, that would damage any battery, or that would damage any type of lithium. But with a capacitor bank, we've tested it. Trust us, we've tested it. The only thing that will happen is you'll get a little puff out of it. It's done. Basically, the welds will break. That's it. On the inside, the welds will break. There's no actual internal resistance in the capacitor bank. So once it goes, it's gone. Like that's it.
Very good. And real quick, tell me about Excess Power. I mean, these are what? Where are you guys made, first off?
So we're based out of Knoxville, Tennessee. We do all of our manufacturing either in our Knoxville, Tennessee headquarters or in upstate New York.
So these aren't cheap Chinese batteries?
No, we are a manufacturer. We are not a reseller.
Made in the United States of America.
Yes. So
I absolutely love that.
Lithium, most of our lithium, well, we have 14 different lines of batteries. We have 3 different lithium chemistries along with capacitors. The lithium, our titanate line is made in upstate New York. Our capacitor line is made in upstate New York. Our lithium iron phosphate line is manufactured in upstate New York. A lot of our stuff, and we just announced sodium as a cathode battery, so that's going to be made in upstate New York as well.
That's fantastic. Well, that's some fantastic information. Definitely check out Excess Power. Is it excesspower.com?
Excesspowerbatteries.com.
excesspowerbatteries.com. Lots of information. Made in the United States. Absolutely love that. We've had this EGM setup on this truck for 2 SEMAs now.